Why?
Because Roe v. Wade very clearly sets out that there can be regulations on abortion so long as the life and the health of the mother are taken into account. And when I voted as a senator, I did not think that that was the case. The kinds of cases that fall at the end of pregnancy are often the most heartbreaking, painful decisions for families to make. I have met with women who had, toward the end of their pregnancy, get the worst news one could get, that their health is in jeopardy if they continue to carry to term, or that something terrible has happened or just been discovered about the pregnancy. I do not think the United States government should be stepping in and making those most personal of decisions. So you can regulate if you are doing so with the life and the health of the mother taken into account.
Mr. Trump, your reaction, and particularly on this issue of late-term partial birth
Well,
abortion.
I think it's terrible. If you go with what Hillary is saying, in the 9th month, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb of the mother just prior to the birth of the baby. Now, you can say that that's okay, and Hillary can say that that's okay, but it's not okay with me. Because based on what she's saying and based on where she's going and where she's been, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month on the final day. And that's not acceptable.
Well, that is not what happens in these cases. And using that kind of scare rhetoric is just terribly unfortunate. You should meet with some of the women that I've met with, women I've known over the course of my life. This is one of the worst possible choices that any woman and her family has to make. And I do not believe the government should be making it. You know, I've had the great honor of traveling across the world on behalf of our country. I've been to countries where governments either forced women to have abortions like they used to do in China, or forced women to bear children like they used to do in Romania. And I can tell you the government has no business in the decisions that women make with their families in accordance with their faith, with medical advice, and I will stand up for that.
Hillary Clinton last night at the debate responding to the question on Roe v. Wade, who is more qualified to discuss that with us and also to speak on behalf of Secretary Clinton than the president of the now 100-year-old organization, Planned Parenthood. Cecile Richards, the daughter of Texas Governor Ann Richards, joins us now. Cecile, God bless you. How are you?
I'm doing really well, Mark. It's good to hear your voice, and especially to get to talk to you right after the day after that debate.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you on the show and hear your voice as well, Cecile. Truly an honor. So I think we just heard Trump do that echolalia thing he does where he just repeats things. The 9th month, rip the baby out. And he said it twice. That was really all he said. He said 9th month, rip the baby out like 2 or 3 times. What
Correct.
is he talking about?
Look, I think what was happening last night was, one, Donald Trump has a terrible record on women, on women's health, on every issue related to women. And so instead of addressing what his positions were, he tried to make some hysterical statements, and where they've been thoroughly discredited by every medical association and doctor. And on the other hand, Hillary Clinton, and I think one of her strongest moments, frankly, during the debate, laid out very clearly that she believes that women have to be able to make their decisions about their pregnancies in consultation with their doctors, and that she stands for Roe versus Wade. And Donald Trump said he would, appoint justices to overturn it. And she made a very strong statement about supporting Planned Parenthood and all the health care that we provide. And, of course, Donald Trump and his running mate have said they want to end access to Planned Parenthood for everyone in the country.
And we know Mike Pence is all, as you mentioned, his running mate, Mike Pence is all about that as well. I think one of the other things, Cecile, that Hillary Clinton did last night, I think it was very important when she talked about what has happened in other countries, where it's one extreme or the other. Either women are forced to bear children or they're forced to have abortions. And then she also said, which really is sort of a Republican/libertarian principle, the government should not be making decisions on behalf of women's bodies. You know, when everything else, they don't want government in it, but they want government somehow making decisions about women's bodies.
Absolutely, and that's what's been incredible in this Congress, as you know. I mean, the Republican leadership in Congress has tried to destroy everything that President Obama has done, and the only place where they find a role for government is in restricting women's access, and basically taking away the right of women, as you say, to make their own decisions about their pregnancies. One of the things I thought was so powerful about what Secretary Clinton said, and of course this is what we see at Planned Parenthood, is that, you know, most abortions that are performed in the U.S. are 99% of them are early, and in the situation where a woman is having to terminate a pregnancy later in the pregnancy, it is often one of the most heartbreaking situations where either the woman's health is literally at risk, or her life is at risk, or she has a pregnancy that late in pregnancy has been determined to be incompatible with life. And these are very poignant circumstances. And Secretary Clinton spoke to that as someone who actually understands women's issues and what they face. I feel like Donald Trump, this entire campaign, of course, has been so negative and devoid of ideas, but he's also showed such a extraordinary lack of empathy or understanding about other people and other people's lives, not only women, as we know, but certainly last night that was very much on display.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that. In terms of Planned Parenthood, Cecile Richards with us, folks, can you give us sort of an update on where Planned Parenthood is still available and operational versus places where it has either been shut down or seriously in jeopardy or close to being shut down?
Sure. And, you know, I'm talking to you tonight from Cleveland because I just landed here coming from Nevada. I'm going to be doing some stuff. And, you know, this is a state where they have passed so many restrictions on women's health care and access to safe and legal abortion. But we are very much in operation all across the state. And, in fact, I just left a few women over at the headquarters, and 3 of them came up to tell me their stories about how Planned Parenthood had saved their life. They had an early detection of cancer and other stories. And right now, despite the politics of this country, we're open in every single state in America. The thing that is discouraging, Mark, is that some of those areas of the country where women have the least access to health care, and I'll just pick on my home state of Texas, where the state legislature has done everything they can, and Rick Perry, as governor, tried to shut down Planned Parenthood. They haven't shut us down, and we're still open, but they've cut so many programs for women, and in fact, dozens of women's health centers have shut down. We just have seen a doubling of maternal mortality in the state of Texas. And which is unconscionable. There is no reason for it. And it is completely because women don't have access to health care, basic preventive care. And of course, as I'm sure some of your listeners may be aware of, the access to health care in this country is so unequal that what we're seeing in Texas is the women most affected are women of color. And so we're not seeing across the board the disenfranchisement of women, but particularly women who are low income or live in states where there are severe restrictions. We have got to do better in America of making sure everyone has access to care, and that's our goal in our second 100 years at Planned Parenthood.
Yeah. Cecile, I find it very hard to imagine any woman who cannot relate to what we're talking about and what you stand for. And even if a woman has never which is probably not is rare. A woman who's never been to Planned Parenthood, a woman who's never had an abortion. Certainly, there are some. Every woman knows a woman who's probably
absolutely.
So
and most men do too.
That's what I'm saying. So I just don't see how at this hour any woman could vote any other way. Quite frankly, I'm at a loss for that. And I know the majority of women are with Hillary Clinton, but we know there's still some husbands and some folks still holding out. But I just don't. When we look at the threat to women's health and especially reproductive health. I just don't. I can't get around it. I don't get it.
Yes. Well, that was actually one of the reasons that I was so glad that the issue came up last night.
Yeah.
Because even though Hillary Clinton, her entire life she's been fighting for women's health and rights, but it hasn't been an issue that has been discussed in these debate forums where, millions of people can actually learn more about her position and Donald Trump's position. Donald Trump is at the most extreme edge of this country in terms of his wanting to overturn Roe versus Wade and wanting to end access to Planned Parenthood, as he said, wanting to punish women who've had abortions. And I was interested to see that in some of the tracking that was being done during the debate by the main news outlets, that the statements that Hillary Clinton made about supporting Planned Parenthood, supporting access to safe and legal abortion, supporting access to health care for women, was where she rated the strongest among the voters who were watching. Because I do think this is an issue that, as you say, it impacts everyone in this country. I mean, 1 in 5 women have been to Planned Parenthood for health care at some point, and so many young women come to Planned Parenthood, or women who lose their insurance and they come to Planned Parenthood for care. And the thought that there would be someone running for president whose main objective when it comes to women's health is to shut it down it's crazy.
Yeah, and not to mention, we know what the Affordable Care Act has done for women's access to health care. So they want to shut down Planned Parenthood. They want to shut down the Affordable Care Act. Let me mention, just since it's been sitting here, this from the Guttmacher Institute, folks. Just 1.3% of abortions occur at the 21st week or later. The vast majority of abortions, more than 98%, are performed within the first 12 weeks or the first trimester. Now, and those numbers are accurate to you, correct? That's
absolutely. Okay. And Guttmacher is they're the blue ribbon of research on women's health.
So when Hillary Clinton said last night he was using a scare tactic, fear mongering, I mean, that's literally what he's doing when he uses that kind of rhetoric, rip the baby out, all of that. All of that is to incite fear.
Exactly. I mean, it's part of his entire campaign has been this scorched earth campaign, whether it is those kinds of statements, whether it is statements about immigrants and people of Mexican descent, portraying them somehow as criminals and drug lords. I mean, his entire worldview is so out of step with what's happening in this country. I mean, it was obviously a frightening debate, in my opinion, to hear the way he talks about other people, but certainly his lack of understanding about women, his complete lack of respect for women, what he calls women, how he views them, calling them pigs and dogs, and rating them on their physical attributes. I mean, I'm sure you've seen this today, but the explosion of women's comments after that debate has been like nothing I've ever seen. And I honestly, look, there are a lot of men who are offended by Donald Trump's actions and statements, but I do believe that women are this is going to be the largest gender gap with women I predict that we've ever seen in a presidential election. Of course, it means people have to get out to vote. So I want to make sure that your listeners know that this election is far from over. The polls don't matter. What really matters is who goes out on election day.
And I'm sure you would agree that one of the things I've been saying is that we are electing, I think, in one of the clearest moments in history, one of the clearest opportunities, we are electing a Supreme Court as much as a president.
That's correct.
Because, and this goes back to what we were saying about Planned Parenthood earlier and the restrictions that are going on state by state. The fact of the matter is, it's not been safe for people on our side, Cecile, to bring suit with this current court. So you even not only to protect Roe, but to push back at what's going on in individual states, you need courts that are going to be amenable to that, because it's kind of the trap. They make a move, they restrict in a state, and they dare us to do something legal so that it can go before one of these conservative courts. And so Roe v. Wade these restrictions are unconstitutional on their face. But the risk is you have a court that may not necessarily see it that way until Hillary Clinton gets in office.
Well, Well, exactly. And I think, look, one of the things that has been so compelling that President Obama has said, and I got to hear him at the CDC say this, is like if you care about what this president has done, and I think he will go down in history as one of our finest presidents ever. 8 years of progress we have made is also on the ballot here.
Yeah.
And one of the most, and we're either going to build on 8 years of work that President Obama has done, or we're going to start back in the 1920s, I guess, and fight our way back. One of the most important things that Barack Obama did was appoint 2 women to the Supreme Court. And I can tell you the difference of having 3 women on the court who actually can bring women's lived experience into the courtroom is such a revolutionary change. And to think that we could build on that progress and have a court that more represents the people of the country is, as you say, it's going to be definitional, not for the next 4 years, but the next 40.
Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Planned Parenthood, Cecile Richards, I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you what I said to Cecile as we were leaving Philadelphia when she spoke. I said, I saw her mother. I mean, literally, she was channeling her mother up there. For a minute, I didn't even see her. I just saw her mom. And the great work that you continue to do, we appreciate it. And you can count on men like me to continue to stand up and fight for women's rights to make their own reproductive health choices, and for men like me to render impassable the corridor that would prevent that from happening. So, Cecile,
well, I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, no, we're here. Keep up the great work. And I know you're busy on the campaign trail. We're all feeling confident, but you're right. Let's not, rest on our laurels.
We can't take anything for granted.
Nothing for granted, because this man is crazy and a lot of crazy stuff going on. So be sure to get out and vote, folks, and tell all the women this is a defining moment for women in America, not just because Hillary Clinton will be the first woman president, but because of what it means, and the stakes are high for women's health. I'm really astonished to hear how the maternal mortality rate has doubled in your state. That is horrifying.
It is horrifying. It's unconscionable. And, and I'll just add this last point. One of the things we work so hard on is preventing unintended pregnancy, so women can get access to birth control. We're now at a historic low of teenage pregnancy because young people are getting better access.
Right.
We've got to keep building on that progress, and we can't have someone like Donald Trump who would end access to care. I hope everybody caught that now. So what Planned Parenthood folks say, Planned Parenthood just does abortions. No, they don't. Planned Parenthood is involved in eliminating and driving down unintended teenage pregnancy. So you can't have it both ways. If they're doing that good work, then we need them around to continue to do that work. Correct? Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's so critical, and what we're finding is, and that's what the Affordable Care Act did too. 55 million women now eligible for no-cost birth control. These are kinds of things that actually can help women with preventive care. But if you're going to throw it all out and start over, we'll be in a situation like the women are in Texas, and we simply cannot let that happen.
All right.
So.
Stand strong, Cecile. We're with you, okay?
Okay, you too.
All right, we'll talk real soon. Take care now.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Thanks.